I'm Andrea, a passionate DEI advocate and consultant on a mission. Join me in each episode as we celebrate diversity, ignite conversations, and craft workplaces and educational institutions where everyone thrives. This podcast is my commitment to making a meaningful impact on the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So are you ready? Let's get Diversifused. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get Diversifused, where we dive deep into the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm your host, Andrea Horton-Mericli, founder of Diversifused DEI Consulting. And today's episode is going to be a bit different. We're going to go straight to the source, your questions from Quora. Let's start by addressing some questions from people who support diversity, equity, and inclusion. One question that caught my eye was, what steps can organizations take to foster a more inclusive workplace culture? Research from organizations like McKinsey & Company have consistently shown that companies with diverse workforces are more innovative and perform better financially. To foster inclusivity, organizations can implement initiatives such as unconscious bias training, diverse hiring practices, and mentorship programs for underrepresented groups. And underrepresented groups could be almost anybody for the most part, BIPOC individuals, LGBTQ+, individuals with disabilities, veterans, individuals with learning limitations as well. So I used to work at a company that had a wonderful mentorship program. It was actually a school district, and every new teacher got a mentor, a buddy. And it was wonderful because as a new employee, you don't know the organization's policies, procedures, rules. You don't know where things are. You don't know what you can and can't do. For the most part. Now, there's some basic things, of course, everybody knows has common sense, but it's always good to have those mentor programs because that new person who is trying to find their niche in the group to be included and in the group and have a sense of belonging, has someone to go to when they have questions. Because as a new person, a new employee, not new person, but a new employee anywhere, you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. You could be the smartest person, know how to do everything that is task oriented for the job, but you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing when you can't find something or you don't know one of the platforms that you need to use, as well as people have been trained on it too. So it's always good to ask, have a mentor to ask questions to. And in doing so, those companies create a bigger sense of belonging and inclusion because that person doesn't feel lost. They become part of that team a lot quicker. They feel like part of the team a lot quicker as well. It really promotes teamwork and belonging. Let's look at one of the other questions. Now, let's turn our attention to questions from individuals who may be skeptical about DEI efforts. One question I saw asked, why is diversity, equity, and inclusion being pushed hard by progressives? Is there any proof it works? Now, that's a great question. Is there any proof it works? There's tons of proof, tons of research out there, current and 10, 15, 20-year-old research, probably even older, that shows how impactful, how positively impactful having diverse teams improves innovation, improves productivity, improves employee engagement, and general happiness of being an employee at that organization on that team. It's essential to understand that diversity, equity, and inclusion are not just buzzwords. They're not. They're crucial for creating fair and equitable opportunities for everyone. That doesn't only include BIPOC individuals, it includes everyone, no matter who you are or where you're from. The DEI initiatives are for everybody. Because I did a blog post a little while back on my blog page on my website, and I talked about how as um, a new person, or like when you're a third wheel at the party, like we've all been there. Most people have been that third wheel. Uh, you go with some friends to a party or some gathering, and you don't know hardly anybody. Maybe you only know the one or two friends that invited you, and everybody seems like they know each other. They've known each other for years, and it's hard to find your into that group, because they are talking about the past. They're talking, laughing and talking about things that happened before, where it's an in thing, like you have to be there to understand it, and you feel excluded at the time. You can't join in really into those conversations, as well as if you were there, when those situations happened. So it, that feeling that you have as that third wheel, and it's like, why did I even come? um, uh, is the feeling that being, um, not having a sense of belonging, or being included in the workplace, in the classroom, in the general community, that some individuals feel that all the time. Like they don't have their way in. They don't have, they're being excluded for some reason, whether it's they didn't grow up, um, in a place and know the ins and outs of the town. They have a different language. They have a different religion, than the majority. Um, and so it's those feelings that DEI initiatives help with. And as I said, it's for everyone. Um, Research by the Harvard Business Review shows that diverse teams are more innovative and better at problem solving. Additionally, a study of Deloitte, sorry, found that inclusive teams outperformed their peers by 80% in team-based assessments. 80% performance. And it's I mean, those numbers alone are just impactful, for businesses, for individuals. Um, they say a lot, and so think about it. Our world today is more technologically advanced than it was 20 years ago. Um, I grew up as a military brat, which is, one or more of my parents was in the military, and so we moved around. In this case, it was my father who was in the army, um, and we moved around a lot. So, and I am from Generation X, so it was before technology was, around in households, before cell phones were around. We had the phones with the cord that would get tangled up all the time, and it would only extend so far. So there was, really little to no private conversations over the phone. And when it came to moving, you would say, "Oh yeah, I'll write you. I'll write you." You might write one letter, and then it just fills us out because it's very time consuming as a child to write letters, over and over again in hopes that your friend, receives it on their end and responds. So uh, it's just, technology has really, um, uh, closed that gap for communication, on a global scale. And people can, even though they're moving everywhere, they can stay in touch a lot quicker. An email, a text message, a phone call, a WhatsApp message, Facebook message, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, they can show videos of themselves now, instantly. And um and so that global growth in technology and communications has allowed not just communities at large to speak with one another across seas and oceans, thousands of miles, but it's allowed corporations, organizations, educational institutions to do the same. Some schools are even having pen pals in other countries, uh, as they're working on communication, writing, and reading and learning other languages. So DEI is even being taught at that level, and it needs to be taught even more at the younger level than it already is. It needs to be more of a focus. So skeptics of DEI can decrease over time. Because one of the comments on the Quora, one of the Quora sites I was on, did mention that it needs to be taught younger, and I definitely agree. But it also needs to be taught in the household because uh, the more a child learns in school, they bring it back to the house and they talk about it. It has an impact on children. Learning does, and the golden rule, the platinum rule, treating others as you want to be treated, treating others as they would want to be treated. Um, it's things like that really need to be taught, starting at a younger age. Um, so I digress. I apologize. Let's go to another question that I found on Quora. One of the other questions raised concerns about the merit-based approach versus diversity initiatives. The argument is often made that decisions should be based solely on merit and not race. While merit is undoubtedly essential, we must recognize that systemic biases exist that can disadvantage certain groups. DEI efforts aim to level the playing field and ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. So I'm going to get a swig of water here. So in one of the comments that addressed this comment, there was a professional woman on there, and she was white, who mentioned that even though she's white, the DEI initiatives are there to help everybody, because research has shown that if you're male, if you're white, if you're of a certain age and religion, you're seen automatically by both men and women. She stated, and I agree with her, that they're seen by both men and women as more capable of doing the job than someone who has equal um, an equal education to that person and skill set and everything. If they're not white, or if they're not a man, or if they're of a different religion, they're automatically seen, subconsciously, our implicit bias puts them lower, as not as capable as this one uh, other person who fits the mold of what we've been taught, subconsciously been taught as a community, um, who can do the job better. And that's not true. So that's why DEI has come about even more so. And one of the other comments on the course said it's been around forever, and yeah, it pretty much has DEI, but it became popular in the 2000s because more popular, I should say, after with the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of the other situations that are been happening around the world, and have been more televised. Through radio and television. So it's been brought to our attention a lot more. And through videos, people with their cell phones and on posting on YouTube and all the other social media platforms, it's become uh, more people become aware of these situations. So the DEI initiatives have become more popular because we can see, as a society, as a global society, we can see the disparages, the unequalness between different groups. And so there are those skeptics that still don't understand that. And that they're entitled to their opinions, they are. But to me and to all other DEI consultants and supporters of DEI, we know these initiatives are for everyone. They do not discriminate, no matter what color, what age, what religion, what sexuality you identify as, what gender. They do not discriminate. And so they're for everyone, because everybody wants to feel included. Everyone wants to feel a sense of belonging. We don't want anybody to feel like they're not wanted, that they don't matter. that their contributions and efforts don't matter. Nobody wants to feel that way. And that's what DEI initiatives are all about. And so uh, consultants like my company, Diversifused, really help to promote that knowledge and that, give that education to individuals and organizations through organizational consulting or individual coaching. Um, it's very impactful stuff because all of us have implicit biases, and we have uh, what separates those who are who I would say are seen as a prejudice and stuff, or can be seen as prejudice by other people, are how we act on those implicit biases. Do we act on them? Like, do we like, oh, stereotype and eliminate somebody from being recognized for an award or being promoted based on those implicit biases that we have? And not looking at the proof of what of the accomplishments of that person? Or do we step back, self-evaluate, self-assess our own selves, and recognize when we have those implicit biases, those thoughts in our head, um, to where we stop, we think, we don't act on emotion and automatic response. We stop and think, and we evaluate, and then we act. When we do that, that's where fairness comes. The chances of a fair act happens. The chances of a fair act happening happens. So it's so important for us to self-assess, because there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be people, individuals who don't fully understand the concept of DEI. And even though I'm a consultant, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always learning something new. I always want to learn something new, always, because times are changing, trends change, and 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 processes changed where hopefully they become better processes and better ideals and ideas overall, to do things more efficient, more effective, um, that are more inclusive at the same time. So, um, as I said, even though I'm a consultant, I'm a lifelong student, and that's what I believe. I attend webinars. I attend other consultants' webinars. I read DEI books. I read journals. I read research material. I actively look for it. I listen to podcasts, and just because I want to get different perspectives. Um, and I just don't listen to DEI podcasts. I listen to all different types of business podcasts, marketing, um, wellness, business, finance, um, different languages as well. There's a wonderful conversational Spanish podcast that I listen to as well, and Turkish ones too. So um, it's so important that we never stop our learning, even though we may have left school, we may have finished schooling, formal education, where we're paying, for college or for a certificate program or something. Um, Education should never end. We should never stop educating ourselves, even when it comes to watching news and reading news. We should look at different media outlets because, as I said, everybody has implicit bias, and some organizations are paid to have a one certain type of stance on an issue, and so we need to be aware of that. So we need to make sure that we're reading and listening to many different types of sources, so we can make up our own minds. And that's what DEI is all about: to make up our own minds as a person on what we believe and how we act, in the hopes of promoting inclusive spaces. So Before we wrap up, I want to remind you that I'm still looking for guest speakers for future podcast episodes of Get Diversifused. If you have expertise in DEI or just passionate about DEI, have a compelling story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me at Andrea@diversifused.com. I'll have my contact information and the link to my guest speaker interest form at the end of the podcast. I'll also put it in the description of the podcast. Reach out to me because I'd love to hear from you. You can also reach out to me via our website to learn more about becoming a guest on the show and about our services as well, how we can help you and or your organizations or educational institutions become more inclusive spaces where everyone feels that they're valued, heard, and belong. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Get Diversifused. Remember, diversity, equity, and inclusion are not just buzzwords. They're essential for creating a better, more equitable world for everybody. Our next episode will be over global diversity. My guest speaker will be Mia Ellis and with Mendix, from Mendix, and I'm excited to be speaking with her next week. So look for that episode number 3 of Get Diversifused. Until next time, stay diversifused. Now go out there and make a difference. And as always, for more strategies on building inclusive workplaces and communities, check out Diversifused. We're here to guide you on your DEI journey. Make sure to visit our website at diversifused.com and follow us on social media for the latest happenings, blog posts, tips, and events.